The silver SUV rolled into the tiny garage just after 9 on a bright spring morning, its engine humming softly but refusing to move more than a few feet before jerking to a stop. The exhausted owner climbed out with tears in her eyes, carrying a folder filled with repair reports from 5 of the biggest dealerships in the state. Every report carried the same heartbreaking verdict: transmission beyond repair. Replace entire unit. Estimated cost, $14,000. It was the kind of number that destroys families overnight. But hidden behind a faded wooden sign, inside an old garage that most people drove past without noticing, a struggling single father was about to prove that experience, honesty, and determination could accomplish what expensive machines and luxury showrooms could not. Before we continue, if you believe kindness, second chances, and hard work still matter in today's world, please take a moment to like this video, comment where you're watching from, share it with your friends, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. Your support helps us continue bringing inspiring stories that touch the heart. The old garage belonged to Elias Mercer, a 42-year-old single father who had spent nearly half his life repairing vehicles. The building wasn't impressive. Its paint was peeling, the waiting room held mismatched chairs, and the roof leaked whenever heavy rain arrived. Yet every tool inside had been carefully maintained because Elias believed that respecting his tools meant respecting the people who trusted him. Since losing his wife years earlier to a sudden illness, he had raised his 10-year-old son, Noah, alone. Every morning before sunrise, they shared breakfast together before Noah walked to school and Elias unlocked the garage doors for another uncertain day. Business had become painfully slow. Large dealerships advertised flashy service centers, free coffee, and computerized diagnostics that convinced customers they knew everything. Elias couldn't afford million-dollar equipment. He relied on years of experience, careful listening, and patience. Bills continued piling up, and more than once he quietly wondered whether the garage his father had built decades earlier would soon disappear forever. The SUV's owner, Marissa Holt, explained that she had already spent weeks visiting dealership after dealership. Each inspection ended the same way. New transmission. Huge bill. She couldn't afford it. Yet she also couldn't survive without the family vehicle that carried her children to school and herself to work every day. She admitted she had almost given up before a delivery driver mentioned an old mechanic who never charged people for problems they didn't have. Elias didn't rush. Instead of plugging expensive scanners into every connector, he first listened. He drove the SUV around the block during the bright daylight, carefully paying attention to every vibration, every delayed shift, and every unusual sound. Then he opened the hood, inspected wiring beneath the vehicle, checked transmission fluid, examined electrical connectors, and studied every detail the dealerships had barely mentioned in their reports. Hours passed while sunlight filled the garage through dusty windows. Noah arrived after school and quietly completed his homework in the corner while watching his father work with calm concentration. Elias finally noticed something almost invisible. A damaged wiring harness near the transmission had been rubbing against a metal bracket for months. Tiny breaks inside the wires interrupted signals being sent to the transmission control system. The transmission itself wasn't destroyed. It was simply receiving incorrect information. Most modern dealerships had relied heavily on computer fault codes. Elias relied on understanding why those codes appeared. Replacing the damaged wiring, cleaning several connectors, updating a control module, and performing careful calibration required less than a day's work. The parts cost barely $200. Marissa expected another painful conversation about impossible expenses. Instead, Elias handed her a simple invoice she read 3 times because she thought he had forgotten a zero. Tears filled her eyes when the SUV shifted perfectly during the test drive under the clear afternoon sky. It accelerated smoothly for the first time in months. She hugged her children before driving away with a smile she hadn't worn in weeks. The story could have ended there, but kindness has a remarkable way of traveling farther than advertisements. Marissa shared her experience online. She never attacked the dealerships. She simply described how an old neighborhood garage had solved what 5 major service centers declared hopeless. Within days, thousands of people shared her story. Local reporters visited the garage. Customers arrived from neighboring towns carrying folders filled with expensive repair estimates. hoping someone would finally listen instead of simply replacing costly parts. Elias treated every customer exactly the same as before. Wealthy business owners waited beside delivery drivers, teachers, retirees, and young families. Everyone received honest inspections. Sometimes expensive repairs were truly necessary, and Elias never pretended otherwise. But whenever a smaller solution existed, he chose honesty over profit. Soon the little garage that had nearly closed became the busiest repair shop in the county. Elias hired 3 unemployed mechanics who had struggled to find work. He repaired the leaking roof, installed better lighting, and created a comfortable waiting area. Yet he refused to replace the faded wooden sign his father had carved years ago. It reminded him where everything had begun. Noah proudly swept floors after school and dreamed of becoming an engineer someday. Watching his father restore both cars, and Hope taught him lessons no classroom ever could. Success wasn't measured by the size of a building, but by the number of lives improved inside it. Months later, one of the dealerships quietly contacted Elias, asking if he would train several technicians in practical diagnostic methods. He accepted without bitterness because he believed sharing knowledge helped everyone. Instead of proving others wrong, he focused on helping more families avoid unnecessary financial hardship. The little garage became known not for miracle repairs, but for something even rarer, integrity. People traveled hundreds of miles because they trusted the man behind the wrench more than the logos on giant buildings. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, leave a meaningful comment, share it with someone who believes honesty still exists, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. Your support allows these inspiring stories to reach more people around the world. Special request, before the story ends, comment below with one word: honesty, if you believe integrity will always outlast greed. As the afternoon sun gently illuminated the old garage, Elias looked at the familiar wooden sign hanging above the entrance and smiled. He had never become the richest mechanic in the city, but he had become something far more valuable, a man whose honesty restored not only broken vehicles, but broken trust. And sometimes, the greatest engine-driving success isn't hidden beneath the hood of a car. It's found inside a heart that refuses to give up on people.